Albert Einstein's forbidden advice. 90% ignore this, it will awaken you. The forbidden beginning. Albert Einstein was not just a scientist. He was a rebel in disguise, a cosmic outlaw who spoke truth that shattered society's illusions. Everyone knows him for E is equals to MC squared. But most people ignore what actually made him great. His mindset, his lens, his raw, soul-awakening philosophy of life. His ideas weren't just about physics. They were about freedom, about escaping mental prisons society builds around you from the moment you are born. And if you really listen to what he said, you wouldn't just be smarter, you would be free. But here's the catch. 90% of people don't want that kind of freedom. They want comfort, validation, safety. Einstein wanted truth, even if it burned every system to the ground. He once said, "The world as we live and have created, it is the process of our thinking. It cannot be changed without changing our thinking." Stop. Read that again. Let it slap you. He didn't say change your job, your relationship, your country. He said change your thinking, because your thoughts are the architect of your reality. And most people, they have outsourced their thinking to the algorithm, to the crowd, to the fear-fed machine called modern life. Einstein's greatest secret wasn't in the lab. It was in his refusal to think like the herd. He protected his mind like a warrior protects his homeland. He refused to trade truth for approval. And if you want to live like him, not exist, but actually live, you have to kill the virus of average thinking. This is your wake-up call. Not from TikTok, not from Instagram, but from one of the most dangerous minds in human history. And this is just the beginning. Einstein hated school. Let that sink in. The man who rewrote the laws of the universe, who outsmarted the entire academic world, said this: "Education is what remains after one has forgotten what one has learned in school." That's not just a quote. That's a declaration of war against mediocrity, against obedience, against systems that crush originality. Einstein wasn't failing because he was dumb. He was failing because he is awake. He saw through the machine, the memorization, the regurgitation, the pressure to conform, the way school punishes questions that don't fit in the syllabus. He knew early on, if you follow the crowd, your mind dies quietly. You might pass the test, but you fail at life. The truth. Most people are educated out of their genius. You were born with curiosity, wild imagination, an urge to touch, to break, to explore. Then they told you to sit still, to shut up, to raise your hand, to follow the rules written by people who stopped dreaming decades ago. Einstein rebelled, not by screaming, but by thinking for himself. That's the rarest kind of rebellion. Most people scream to feel alive. He thought to stay free. And this is where most men lose the plot. They get the degree, the job, the house, but they never become who they are because they traded their originality for security. They followed someone else's map, and then they wondered why they felt lost. Einstein's advice: burn the damn map. Build your mind, feed your curiosity, ignore applause, chase truth. Because the world doesn't need more well-behaved adults. It needs dangerous thinkers. It needs you unchained. Einstein didn't just think, he disappeared. He vanished from the crowd, from the noise of the world, often walking alone, sitting in silence, eyes closed, drifting into dimensions most people never visit. And he wasn't ashamed of it. He once said, "The monotony and solitude of a quiet life stimulates the creative mind." But today, solitude is feared. People can't go 5 minutes without checking their phones. Silence terrifies them. They need noise to feel alive. But that noise is killing their soul. Einstein knew something the world ignores. Destruction is the enemy of genius. And solitude, that's where the real weapons are sharpened. He used to think like a sword. He listened to his intuition, the subtle voice inside that whispers the truth while the world screams lies. Another code they buried. The intuitive mind is a sacred gift, and the rational mind is a faithful servant. We have created a society that honors the servant and has forgotten the gift. That's it. That's the entire sickness of the modern life. You have been taught to worship logic, spreadsheets, structure, but ignore your own internal compass. You were trained to be a machine, not a force. Einstein wasn't always logical. He followed hunches. He trusted the way an idea felt before he proved it on paper. The theory of relativity didn't come from textbooks. It came from imagination. So ask yourself, when was the last time you sat alone and listened? Not to music, not to influencers, but to your own mind. When did you last enter that sacred silence and let it guide you? Because if you can't sit with yourself in solitude, you'll never hear the genius that's screaming beneath your distractions. This is what made Einstein powerful, and it's what will set you free. Einstein once said something so powerful, it should be carved into the soul of anyone chasing greatness. He said, "Imagination is more important than knowledge, for knowledge is limited, whereas imagination embraces the entire world." Pause right there. The man who had more scientific knowledge than almost anyone alive is telling you that knowledge isn't the key. Not alone. Knowledge is a memory, imagination is a creation, and the world doesn't need more fact-stuffed zombies. It needs more creators, visionaries, rebels who dare to dream beyond the rules. Einstein didn't just study reality, he bent it, because he wasn't locked in the prison of what is. He dared to ask, what if? What if time wasn't absolute? What if gravity was curved space? What if the world we see is just a shadow of deeper laws? And that's the mindset that most people will never touch because they are addicted to logic, addicted to proof, afraid of looking foolish. But Einstein knew, if you only move when you're sure, you'll never move at all. Imagination isn't childish, it's spiritual, it's divine. It's the only place where new worlds are born. And Einstein's life was long rebellion against mental limits. That's why he also said, logic will get you from A to B. Imagination will take you everywhere. So what's stopping you? The job you hate? The fear of failure? The voice in your head saying, be realistic? That's not your voice. That's programming. That's what they put into your mind to keep you from dying, from flying. Einstein tore that voice out of his brain. And that's why the world remembers his name. So here's the forbidden advice. protect your imagination like your life depends on it. Because it does. In a world that kills dreams with comfort, imagination is your last weapon. And most people never use it. Albert Einstein wasn't popular. He was feared, mocked, doubted, not because he was wrong, but because he was different. And he remembered and embraced that. In fact, he once said, "Great spirits have always encountered violent opposition from mediocre minds." That one quote explains everything. The resistance, the ridicule, the silence you feel when you speak your truth and the world turns away. It's not because you are broken, it's because you are awake in a world that sleeps. Einstein refused to conform. He didn't dress like the elite. He didn't worship credentials. He didn't beg to fit in. He knew something most people never learn. When you fit in, you disappear. When you stand alone, you become unforgettable. He wasn't chasing popularity. He was chasing purpose. And if that made him an outsider, good. That was the price. And he paid it. With his reputation, his peace, his entire identity. But in turn, he became immortal. The truth, if you want to walk the path of greatness, you have to stop craving approval. You must be willing to look crazy, to be doubted, to be laughed at, because mediocrity will always attack what it doesn't understand. Einstein lived like that. He didn't explain himself to fools. He didn't water down his thoughts to be digestible. He said what was real. He walked alone when he had to, and still, the world couldn't ignore him, because the truth doesn't need applause. It needs courage. So if you feel like no one gets you, like your vision is too bold, like the world just doesn't hear your frequency, congratulations. That's the sign. That's the proof. You're on the right road. Einstein wasn't to be liked. He didn't want that. He wanted to be free. And freedom requires one thing: the courage to be misunderstood. Albert Einstein didn't just unlock the secret of time. He saw through it. He once said something the world will still isn't ready to hear. That distinction between past, present, and future is only stubbornly persistent illusion. Let that hit you. We spend our days, our lives haunted by the past, anxious about the future. But Albert Einstein, the man who literally defined time, tells us it's all an illusion. That the only thing that truly ever exists is now. That's not science fiction, that's spiritual reality. He understood what sages, mystics, and monks have echoed for centuries. You only live in the present, and most people aren't living there. They are lost in the mental loops, trapped in regret, addicted to someday. They miss the miracle because they are too busy chasing shadows. But Einstein saw it. The sacredness of a single moment, a flower blooming, a bird flying, the way light hits a leaf. He once said, there are only 2 ways to live your life. One as if though nothing is a miracle. The other as if though everything is a miracle. He chose the second every time. You want power, presence. You want peace, presence. You want to unlock that Einstein-level genius. You stop running. You stop scrolling. You land right here in the now. Because that's where all greatness begins. Not in the future, not in the plan, not in the hustle, but in the second. this second, in the breath you're taking right now, that's where life lives. And death, he didn't fear it, because he saw energy never dies. It just changes form. He once said when a friend passes away, now he has departed from his strange world a little ahead of me. That means nothing. People like us know that the distinction between past, present, and future is only a stubborn illusion. To Einstein, death wasn't the end. It was just another transition in the great dance of energy, time, and consciousness. So stop waiting. Stop thinking your life begins after the money, after the flowers, after the followers, after the success. It's already happening, and every second you are awake to it, you are asleep inside a miracle. Albert Einstein left behind more than theories. He left a blueprint for awakening. Not to become a scientist, but to become a force, a free mind, a soul on fire, a human being who sees through the noise and lives from something deeper. He said, try not to become a man of success, rather become a man of value. But look around, everyone's chasing success, followers, clout, status, fake power. And in the process, they've abandoned what actually makes a man powerful. Purpose, imagination, solitude, courage, truth. Einstein gave you the cheat code, and most of the world ignored it. Why? Because it's hard. It demands inner work. It demands inner silence. It demands that you stop chasing and start becoming. But if you truly understand what you've just heard, then you can never go back to sleep. You've been exposed. You've been called out. Because greatness is not a matter of luck. It's a matter of alignment, of becoming someone so tuned in to the truth that the world can't look away. That's what Einstein was. That's what you can be. But here's the question. Do you actually want that life? Or do you just like the sound of it? Do you want to think differently? Or look like you do? Because this isn't motivation. This is war between who you are and who you were told to be. Einstein's warning is simple. The world won't awaken you. You have to do it yourself. So, now that you know the forbidden advice, the real stuff, the stuff they never teach you, what will you do with it? Will you scroll past it? Or will you use it to shatter the mental prisons you were born into? Your mind is the battlefield, and only one version of you survives.